Hey everybody, this is MyCollectables coming back with another video. This video is all about the new SpiderGirl comic that we got in the app recently. Now, this comic is up for a lot of debate right now, and I wanted to explain it to you and show you why I personally think that this comic is a lot more important than people realize, and this could be the start of something bigger down the line, right? So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to break down what the comic's about, all right, and why I think that it's something that maybe people should be picking up in the app right now and looking long term. There is so much stuff going on with it, and as I've been saying, if you watch all my videos, that Veve doesn't just drop comics in the app for no reason at all, and this one will actually surprise you about what's in it. So we'll just get into that in a second. But here we go. This is the comic. I just wanted to show you the cover right here. This comic is loaded with first appearances. If you actually read about it and go into it, you can check it out. And I believe that this comic, like I said, is a lot more important than people are even knowing, all right? So right here, if you want to join my channel, this is what I do. I go and break down a lot of Marvel content, MCU stuff, and stuff for Veve, and I show you what you could potentially be getting in the app and thinking long term. I've been doing this from the start. I do lots of top 10s and stuff. If you want to join my channel, you can hit the join button right there on the beginning of my page, or you can subscribe and like. If you like this video, hit like. That would be awesome. And you could also comment down below. That's the big one for me. I really love to get into discussions with everybody and talk about this stuff and find out what you think. So comment down below, and you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter as well and do the same thing there. I will follow you back. No worries at all, because I like to get the conversation going, see what you're doing, see what I'm doing. Anyway, so let's look at this comic right here. So my big question was, when we saw this comic come in a few days ago, this is March 27th, all right, 2022. When we saw this comic come in, I was wondering, like, why did we get this particular comic? All right, now some comics and some items in Veve, they drop for certain reasons, like holidays and things like that, and we can kind of say, well, that's just sort of a one-off, right? But this comic to me seemed a lot more interesting, and I knew already a little bit about it, you know, because I'm a pretty decent comic collector in the real world, and not just on Veve, of course, right? And so I really dove deep into this comic. I was like, why did we get this? You know, because like I said, Veve always drops things lately anyway for a reason. We're getting comics and things in the app that relate to the MCU. This is mostly about Marvel, right? So what related to the movies that are coming out, things that are coming in the future. And this comic is a real transitional comic, okay, with its storyline from the old, you know, or not the old, but the previous movies we've already seen with those heroes, and transitioning into a new generation and them taking up the mantle from the previous generation, right? So let's just get into this a little bit more. So who is this SpiderGirl, all right? So I'll just read this little thing that I wrote down for you right here. That way I can read it out and explain exactly who she is and where she's coming from if you don't know. So this comic was released in May 1998, all right? Sorry, not May. So it was released in 1998, and SpiderGirl is Mayday, or the daughter of Peter and Mary Jane. Now this is the original Spider-Man, all right? So he's gotten a lot older, and he had a major injury, all right, with the Green Goblin, and this is their daughter, right? So she was part of the MC2 universe, which is like Earth 982, which is another, you know, as the multiverses in these movies keep opening up, this is another one, and it focuses, like that universe focuses on showing an alternative reality where then like all of the generation that we knew about superheroes are kind of passed on, and now it's a next generation who are taking up their mantles, and like, so this SpiderGirl is like, you know, the daughter of Spider-Man. So that's basically the gist of how that works. And in this universe, Peter, right, like Spider-Man, he was battling, you know, with the Green Goblin previously years ago, right when she was around born, and he was majorly injured in that. He lost part of his leg, and, you know, like it was a major kind of final battle with the Green Goblin. And so then what happened is that he kind of retired, right? Like he like stopped being Spider-Man and he raised his daughter, right? And so what happened though is that she right here, she starts to develop power. She's in high school now. She starts to develop power. She's dominating the basketball team and everything like that. And basically what happens in this comic book is that, you know, the Green Goblin's grandson, Normie Osborn, he takes up the mantle as like the Green Goblin. He hunts down Peter. He wants to talk to him and, you know, whatever, confront him. But Peter is not wearing his suit anymore or anything like that. And what happens is that she kind of starts to figure it out. She finds a Spider-Man suit and she ends up going and kind of like saving Peter Peter, from the Goblin, the younger Goblin, doing a battle, and she shows up in this awesome suit, right? So that's kind of the synopsis of the comic, right? And so, how is this story related to the newer stories that are happening? Well, this is a big spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen the Spider-Man No Way Home movie that came out recently, then please don't watch any further of the video, or at least go watch the movie first. Or if you don't care, that's fine. But I'm going to give you some major spoiler alerts that happen in this movie that relate to that Spider-Girl potentially coming into the MCU, and this comic book suddenly becoming more and more important, right? So listen to this. So in this movie right here, Doctor Strange opens up the multiverse, with Peter's permission. They do some spell, and then all these villains start coming in from Peter's past, the ones that know Spider-Man from all the multiverses, and they're coming in, and so do the other Spider-Mans. They join as well. They come in and join the battle, and there's a whole bunch of battles and really cool stuff and fun stuff. But we got Tobey Maguire over there, the first Spider-Man trilogy movie, Spider-Man. He's in there. He's a lot older, okay? Like, he's much older. He's like, in his 40s or something like that, and we got, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's also in there. He's sort of in the middle, right? But Tobey Maguire's the important one to think about here, because he's actually at the age of, if you wanted to think about the Spider-Girl comic, of where that original Spider-Man would have been around the time that he actually lost his leg and had that major injury with the Green Goblin and made him stop being Spider-Man. This is around the same time, okay? So if we scroll a bit further, there's the Green Goblin. He's in the movie, of course. Now, if we scroll into this part right here, this is the moment that I wanted to talk about that parallels with the actual comic. And remember, Veve and Marvel, they know what they're doing. They're not just throwing these comics at us for no reason at all. Remember, if you watch the final fight scene, he stops, Tom Holland's Spider-Man from stabbing the Green Goblin, and him himself, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, gets completely stabbed through the back, really bad injury. He falls down. We think he's gonna die, but he doesn't quite die, of course. They pick him up, they patch him up a bit, but he's gonna go back to his timeline or whatever like that, injured. He's older, right? So if we actually mirror this with the Spider-Girl comic, it actually fits in with the same storyline as this movie. This is an opportunity where they could actually take this particular moment in the MCU and actually move it into like a new movie for Spider-Girl based upon like his daughter, because he's older, he's married to Mary Jane, he's now injured from the Goblin the same way the Green Goblin injured the Parker in that What If comic, right? So let's just read this a bit. I wrote a little thing for you. The OG Spider-Man gets injured and stabbed badly by the Green Goblin. Due to his age, all right, this may lead him to semi-retire, okay, and maybe hand down the job to his daughter eventually in the future, SpiderGirl, all right? So she could represent Maguire's era of Spider-Man, now moving forward in the MCU and continue on the legacy of that trilogy, right? It's actually a perfect transition, all right? It's a completely perfect transition. What do you think about that? I mean, this is how my mind works. This is what I do. I go in, I dive into these stories and comics and see how it relates to what, is happening now and why we got this comic. Right now, one little thing right here, I just wanted to show you some of the prices that you could get of this comic right now. Now remember, this is something to think about too, okay? Every single comic book that gets launched, printed, released, in the real world is not a GRAIL usually immediately. It takes time for them to become like a GRAIL, and they have to start somewhere. And normally they're not, thought of as GRAILs until something happens in, like the movies or something like that to give it a catalyst moment. This comic was actually quite popular, the What If, because they actually printed another reprint of it, and then they came out with a whole series of Spider-Girl as another one. I'll show you those examples in the real world, but in the app, you could pick up this comic for really amazing prices right now. You can pick up the common for around 5 to 6 gems right now, which is astounding. And remember, this is just a regular print run, right? You can pick up the uncommon for about 7 to 8 gems. You could pick up the rare for around 19, and you could pick up the ultra rare for about 50. $250, but the secret rare is the big one. You can pick it up for about $146 right now, and that is incredible for a secret rare. This could be a really amazing opportunity to jump ahead of this comic before anyone else is really looking at it or thinking about it, and that's why I'm putting this video out, okay? I'm putting this video out because I want you to think way ahead in the future, not next week. I want you to think about what's going on long term, because if you're actually going to get into comic collecting, and Veve is dropping more and more comics all the time, you got to start thinking about why they're dropping these comics, and over time these comics are going to start rising in value with the stuff that happens in the movies and stuff. They're becoming more key issues, and this is amazing because these are first appearance NFTs. These are the first digital comics we're getting in the world, and they're Marvel, and they're on the app. So you have to think long term about this. 5 years down the road, first NFT release, first SpiderGirl. If they do a movie, if they do a show, this is obviously speculative, but that's how I think, right? So going on to the next page right here, you can also then transition over to the real world for physical comics, and you can pick up a 9.8. Now, just so you know, this comic is valued in the real world. This comic is a 9.8 on eBay right now. The cheapest one you can find is about $1,300 US. So that is actually quite a nice book. That's this one right here, and then of course there's the reprint that came out about a year later, and it's Zero. It's like SpiderGirl Zero, and it's just a reprint of the story of the What If. Okay, so that's, you know, people thought this What If was very, very nice. It was really popular. That's the big one. And then this comic right here started the series of SpiderGirl. It was like SpiderGirl #1, and there's a whole series of them. You can read them all. They're really fantastic. But you can pick these up on eBay, like I said, about $1,300 for that. You can get a 9.8 of the Zero one for literally around $250. Now that's the reprint run, so it's not as valuable. And you can pick up SpiderGirl #1. I couldn't find a 9.8 on eBay right now, but it goes for about, you know, about 20 or so if you just want to get just the comic itself. So that could be a way to think about it, right? Getting ahead now. Veve is giving us the hints about what's coming in the future, and I definitely think there's going to be a SpiderGirl, right? So there's like one last big thing that I wanted to show you about this just before, you know, I talk about a little bit more about the comic. Guess what suit she's wearing, all right? She is wearing the friggin' Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit, all right? Now, this is not just me thinking it or noticing it. It is confirmed in the story. Her uncle is Ben Reilly. If you don't know who he is, he's the clone of Spider-Man. And that suit is the one she grabs and puts on and goes to attack. She doesn't grab Parker's old suit, her dad's suit. She grabs Ben Reilly's suit because he has it. You know, Parker's got it, you know, stored there, right? Isn't that incredible? Because we have Ben Reilly in the app as well, this exact suit. Think about that, right? I mean, isn't that astounding, right? So, like I said, if I scroll all the way back here really quickly, this comic dropped. I would personally go after it. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking at this comic. I'm getting a few just for long term. I would recommend the same for you, right? And if you scroll right down to the very bottom, this goes back to everything that I always say, long-term thinking, everybody. I want you to think way ahead with this app. If you're going to be in it for long term, this is what you got to do. This is where you could get really ahead, because some of the stuff, the grails that we have in the past, you know, they're kind of out of reach for a lot of people now, especially some of these grails that were there early before everyone else got in the app, all right? And now that we're all here and you're here and, you know, we're looking for future stuff, I'm looking for future grails, and I'm really looking at every comic that drops in this app and every collectible that's related to Marvel, you know, even Elektra and people like that, and I'm asking, why are we getting this? And I'm thinking way ahead and trying to make sure that I'm not going to be left out when this thing happens, because if they announce this, you know, which they could announce it at any time, you know, with this whole thing with SpiderGirl, you know, that could happen, everybody. And when it does, this comic's definitely going to get more valuable in the future. So think long ahead. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Hit like if you do. Please subscribe and come back. Check out my live streams. We do tons of giveaways. I hope you have an awesome day and happy collecting.